Hello everyone, it's Q&A with Uncle J, episode number 3, and today we have an incredible guest, my mentor as well, Edgar Luczak. How are you?
I'm very well, Yahangi. How are you today?
I'm feeling very stressed actually, because I received lots of questions.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, about the finances and everything that I did not have answers to, but I hope you will.
All right, we'll see.
Yeah, just wanted to start from very beginning. How did you actually get into finance? Was it your dream to become an expert on finance?
Actually, I had a dream quite early on to work with finance. So when I went to university, quite early on I realized that finance is something I was interested in.
Yeah.
So I did study finance at university.
And high school, any dreams while you were
Well,
growing up?
no, not that. Actually, when I was younger, my dreams were a lot different. It was about being an astronaut, it was about being in movies, and it was about becoming a doctor. So obviously I went wrong somewhere because now I went into finance. And
Yeah, it's not actually connected anyhow.
No.
Well, maybe being an astronaut, not finance.
No, not at all. Not at all. So actually it was not until I was maybe 17, 18 years old when I started finding this interesting.
And you were actually training as well, right? Karate, I believe. Or...
I did do a lot. I actually started with judo as a kid. Then I did wushu and kung fu and then karate.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot of different ones.
It was.
Did you compete? No?
No, I never competed.
You did
I never was triggered by competition in sports.
Yeah,
more in terms of practice and kind of doing some fun things.
Yeah, because we actually had this conversation before, right? Where we were talking about, I cannot train if I don't have any competition coming up. So I wish I could have your mindset to actually train and have fun with it.
Yeah.
But about filmmaking, we just actually started talking about. Tell us more about that. I'm so curious.
Well, I liked film as a kid. I believe you need to have a good imagination.
Yeah.
It makes your life happier, and it helps you also in business. So as a kid, I really enjoyed movies. I like reading. I still read a lot. I still like movies. And when I went to high school in the States, I actually studied film as well.
All right. Oh, you said that it helps you with business. How does it help you with business, though?
Well, if you don't have a creative mind in business, you just repeat what you did yesterday, right? So if you can't think of how to get out of a situation and develop new things, you will not make good business in the long run.
And how do you actually develop that thing? How do you develop creativeness? Do you have any tips on that?
Yeah, it's fun. Part of it is actually just a vivid imagination.
Yeah.
But part of it is also forcing yourself to think out of the box and using certain techniques to be creative. I know people that are considered to be incredibly creative, and a lot of their creativity comes from a way of challenging the existing norms and structures. And I've actually stolen that from them as well. So it's about looking at something you work today and ask yourself, what happens if I change what I'm doing today? And there are different techniques of doing that. So one is, what happens if I remove a part of the process or part of the solution that we're working on? Another way is looking at, can I multiply something? And you look at movies, for example, and as an example, because you took that as an example, we talk where it come from. And if you go back 15 years ago, people, when they wanted to look at a movie, they looked at a physical movie. They took a videotape, they put it in their video player, and they looked at the movie. So if you at that time would have said, in order to look at movies, we will remove the actual tape, people said you're crazy. Today, nobody looks at videotapes. You stream the film, so you've removed the concept of a videotape. So that's the way how you could, for example, be innovative by removing something. You remove the videotape and you're forced to come up with a separate solution of delivering the movie to the viewer. Yeah.
But it's based on technology as well, right?
It could be, it doesn't have to be. So you look at, if you add something, for example, you look at knives, pocket knives. So you added the ability to bend it. Before knives were straight and you put them in the sheet and you had a knife. Then you invented, you could add something, you could bend it, for example, and then you added additional things. You could add a different blade on the knife on the top. So that's adding something to existing solution. It's not necessarily technology that drives that development. So innovation doesn't need to be always tech in terms of IT related. It could be other ways of thinking of it as well.
That's a very interesting way of thinking towards it, because everyone is blaming, internet is here, so we're not using anything that was before, but this is a very interesting point of view. Actually, it's funny because Ulla gave me a CD and he told me to import it, and it's been third day I'm searching for people who actually have a CD drive and no one does, you know.
Yeah.
And it's ironic because on his CD it's written Mission Possible, and trust me, it's mission impossible to find the DVD drive here right now.
It's changing. Everything's changing. Nothing is the same as it was before, right?
Indeed. Yeah. It's crazy actually how the world changes so fast. It's exponential change right there. And how was your university? You were studying finance and...
Well, yeah, I did actually study finance, but also at university I studied other things. So I got a scholarship. I went to Stockholm University.
Yeah?
Yeah, and then I got a scholarship to York University, and I went there as well. And I decided actually to break my patterns as well. So I did not almost take any finance courses. I just took one finance course in Canada. And instead I decided to do psychology, philosophy, marketing, and national economics, just in order to kind of again challenge yourself. And I think that's what you should do. When you're studying, that's the only time in life you could make mistakes without any consequences at all. So you should try out and do different things.
But it was not related at all to your program?
No, not at all.
Wow.
I got a scholarship and I decided to do something else.
In Canada?
Yeah.
Nice. It was a half a year as well?
It was a year. I got a full year scholarship at the time.
All right.
Yeah.
Now you have a family, right? And
I have a family.
Kids.
Yeah, I have 2 kids and a wife.
And a cat.
And a cat, yeah, you know that because you watched my cats.
I was.
Actually, it's not 1 cat now, it's 6 cats. So I got babies, so it's pretty busy at home.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
And do you actually work with the same philosophy with your kids as well, that they have to try out everything they want to, or is it more of a...
You know, one thing I've learned when it comes to children, you can plan as much as you want and life takes you through it anyway. So I think coming and saying this is how you manage kids and this is how you do it, it's excuse my bad language, but it's bullshit. Because you need to be a good father and a mother and a parent, and that's not something you just plan and have an execution on to do. So I'm trying to keep an open mind with how to be a parent. I'm trying to, and this is something that's good, trying to use the no word less and the yes word more often.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's easy to say no. If someone says, can we do this or can we do that? And it's you're tired, you come home from work and you go, oh, not now, we'll do it later. And trying to challenge yourself to always say yes. Because we talked about creativity. If you say no, you kill the creativity.
Yeah, that's
so you need to do yes. And parenting is, you know, there is a Swedish expression, small kids, small problems, big kids, big problems. And I'm not going to say we have big problems with kids, but you realize that kids grow up. They have their own visions, they have their own dreams, they have their own ways of thinking, and you can't tell them to do this or do that. It's because they have their own will and their own mind, and that's fantastic.
And you keep open mind for everything, right? They do.
You need to keep an open mind. I believe so.
And
but you also need to be paired. You're not just a buddy and a friend. So to me, it's important also to have some type of try to set some type of boundaries. Not always popular, but I think that's important as well. Yeah,
makes sense. Otherwise, kids will go to some illegal stuff.
Sure.
And
knock on wood. I hope not.
Very many different other things.
I think you know, parenthood is about transferring values and not rules. So if you transfer the values in a good way, you probably don't have to worry so much about them doing stupid things. Kids will always test things and they will make mistakes, but do you have the right values? You don't need to micromanage things. So I hope I'm proven right on this topic in the future. They're only 10 and 14, so you know there's still some things to learn.
And 14 is a teenager. How is that going?
He's a tough kid, you know, but it's going well. He's doing well. He's a smart kid, so from that point of view, I have it easy.
Makes sense. How do you manage work life with family life? Because you're very busy here, and do you actually, when you go home, do you have some type of a structure of not being anything related to work or so whatever?
Well,
or do you work home as well?
You know, I'm kind of standing. I'm the old generation which was taught and learned how to work all the time. So I'm 50 now, and you know, when I was young, you prioritize work and so on. And now, if you look at the generations that come now, it's a lot more freedom and focus on the family and doing the right things from a family point of view. I believe that the new way is the right way. So I think you need to take responsibility for your work, but I think the family is the most important thing you have. So I think it is the right way to make time for family, because you're always short on time. And you can choose to prioritize different things. And to me, I have three big blocks of priorities, if you want. So one is work and personal development, which I put fairly close to each other. Another one is family, and especially children and wife, but other parts of extended family as well. And then the third box I put in there is friends. You know, and some people say that friends and network is the same. To me, it's very different. I have my friends, you know, and I use them to develop myself and my self-being, and not in order to promote my business, which is something else to me. Yeah. So I think you need to have a balance between those three areas to feel happy in life. And if you focus too much on work, you lose the other two areas.
But did you have the same? Did you feel the same way when you were the CEO of Garantum, though?
Absolutely.
Still made time.
Yeah, I still made time. So when I was younger, actually at your age, when I worked, I you know, coming from a consulting background as well, because I worked with that as well. 80, 90 hours a week was not unusual. But now lately, I'm trying to keep normal working hours. Sometimes you need to work more to deliver on a topic or do something, but you focus on keeping that balance and planning your work and working with other people. So that's, you talk about being a CEO, a very important part of being CEO is to working with other people and making sure that other people do the work that needs to be done. It's not about you doing everything on your own.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you started working in CEO, and it was only 18 employees, right? And by the time...
Well, actually, I started as a CEO way before that. So I was a CEO in results, so already in the late 90s.
Oh, wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, take us through everything.
No, but the first time I was a CEO, I was actually 29 years old. That's the first time I turned to CEO.
Result.
At Result
Can
Sweden.
you just briefly say what Result does? So.
Yeah.
So
we had the Result actually started out. It's working with, if you want, innovation and building and growing companies. And we work both with scale-ups and with mature companies and corporates. But back in the 90s when we started the company, it was all about startups, right? So this was about trying to find ways to make small companies grow fast. At that time, the startup scene was quite immature. You know, internet just had boomed, and that kind of gave it a lot of fuel into the startup scene. And the companies didn't know how to build and grow their businesses. So we focused on building companies, you know, and starting them up and running them. And if you've interviewed Uwe, I'm quite sure because he's one of the other founders, he told you the story of why he founded Result and why he did that in terms of and where the ideas came from. And it came, as you know, from the idea of Ace of Base, where he was working with them and he traveled, and wherever they went, they got the red carpet. And when he ran his company, where he went, he got the wall. Yeah. He didn't get help. So the idea was born there, that you could work with companies to help them to expand and grow in a good way, and we would be the red carpet that they could use to go into new markets. So Ola was the CEO of the group at the time, and I was the CEO of Sweden, the CFO of the group. Okay. So that was the first time actually I worked as a CEO at the age of 29.
Wow. And how many were you in the team?
So Swedish operations were 56 people.
56?
Yeah.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
For a start.
It was a good crowd.
Wow, yeah. And then Garantum, right?
No, then actually we worked, and one of our clients, Results clients, was OM, which today is Nasdaq, Nasdaq. And we did a joint venture with them, with OM and a Swedish bank, or a Nordic bank, I should say. And after that work job project, I was offered to go to Nasdaq. And I became the Senior Vice President of Advisory, and I was an entrepreneur. So we started a business from scratch. I was on the division management team, and I was on the senior management team also of OM at the time. Okay,
and you quit you quit Result when you were 29 as well, or
no?
Was it
I was
later?
32, I think 32, 33 maybe 33.
Was Result actually built after the dot-com boom crash or before it?
We started before the dot-com crash. Then we crashed and burned like everyone else. Yeah. So it was a very painful experience. We had to change Result into something else, and it wasn't when we started. And then it actually, as you know, survived because it still exists, and I'm still back in Result after the dot-com era.
That was actually one of the questions. How do you get up from this kind of things when you just your company crashes and you still Where do you get the energy to actually
it
create something more?
It was a pretty tough journey because, you know, it is when your dreams crash and burn, for me it was quite difficult. I lost a lot of weight. I weighed 64 kilograms, actually, so I lost a lot of weight.
Wow.
Partially due to stress and all these things. But the secret to it is to, you know, ask yourself a question, and that question is, so what's the worst thing that can happen? That's the question I asked myself. So I started thinking, okay, am I going to die? Is the world going to end? You know, am I going to, you know, a lot of these bad questions you can think of. And I remember actually it was a specific moment in life when I realized I had the wrong focus and priorities when it comes to challenges. I was watching a documentary on TV. And it was famine, kids dying from not having food.
Wow.
You know, and you look at yourself and say, what am I complaining about? There's nothing wrong with me, you know, and you just need to find a way to bounce back and move on. So that's what actually made me think of this. This is how I bounced back and I started moving on. And you just take the next step and you realize the worst thing that can happen is that you need to get a new job. And that's actually not so bad. You know, it's not so bad. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, but I mean, you create something and then it's done.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, it was actually a terrible feeling because you know, when you're an entrepreneur, you need to keep the dream alive. Yeah, so you start out because you have a dream, and you have and get energy from the dream.
Yeah.
So in this case, when the dot-com era came and everything turned difficult, and we saw all our customers going belly up and so on, and we had to convert our company, and we asked a lot of people to leave, which was very painful because Result was built like a family. So people knew each other, it was very close, it was very personal. It's very much the same culture we have today.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is that when you run into problems and need to downsize, you're asking your friends to leave. You're not asking your employees to leave, right? It's very painful. So it's about coming back to the dream topic. You need to think a bit forward, and when you lose that dream, it's hard to motivate yourself, right?
Makes sense.
And I think there was a difference between some of the different founders. I felt that I wanted to move on after the crash. We cleaned the business, we made it survive. So when I left, we knew that the business would survive. But I had a hard time self-motivating myself because the dream I saw at that time was gone.
It was different, right?
It was different, yeah. So I decided to, instead of staying, to moving on. Some of my colleagues decided that they still had their dream. They still believed in this, and they were right, obviously. And they made this dream materialize and happen. And I'm sharing that dream today. I came back because they could show me the dream, and I could join into that dream, and I believe in that dream. So I came back, and I want to be part of building the things we're building today in Result.
So it's basically the same dream that was back in 90s?
No, it's not. It's actually both the same and not, because it is about entrepreneurship. So there's certain commonalities, but to me it's different. Today, Result is more mature. We're quite immature. You know, you dream, and this is what I was going to say, when you're an entrepreneur, you dream and you discount the possibilities. We had a £1 billion valuation, people were investing in us, you know, and you have this dream, I'm really rich.
Yeah.
And then that goes away. I need to restart, you know, and you need to find a new thing. And that's about bouncing back. You need to find dreams to believe in. You need to find things to do. So for me, when I left Result, I found a new dream in terms of building a new business within OM. That was my dream at the time. It was cool, converting the business of OM into something different. And I was involved in a lot of the transformations, a lot of the corporate development, which was in OM at the time I worked with. So that was my dream, and I found a new dream to realize. And the same thing if you look at Result today, to me the dream I have is more mature in terms of how do you build a business. It's not necessarily about making a quick buck.
Yeah, it's a long-term vision.
It's more long-term, it's more mature. Maybe I'm not as hungry anymore to, you know, make that next million and do that thing. It's not as important anymore. There are other values which are more important to me today than they were 20 years ago.
Because as far as I'm concerned, in a way you quit your job at Garantum with a lower pay here just to pursue your dream,
Sure,
right? And
absolutely.
That's very inspiring.
Yeah, because I believe you need to find inspiration, and I was looking for new inspiration, and the result could give it to me. Yeah.
Oh, but why did you quit Garantum though? I mean,
So
a little bit about
no,
Garantum.
I think
what it
Garantum is a
was and-
fantastic company, right?
Yeah.
So as you know, you asked me, I went to Garantum after Nasdaq, and it's also, I spent 7-8 years at Nasdaq or OM.
Mhm.
Um,
I thought it was shorter.
No, no,
Okay,
no,
I didn't know
7
that.
years.
Yeah.
So, and the idea for me then was I felt that I didn't get that new inspiration.
Okay.
Actually, it was, and I needed something new to drive me. And Garantum actually at that time gave me that inspiration. It was a small company. They were very successful at what they were doing, but there were only 16 employees. And I lacked a little bit that feeling of novelty, of growth, of building and creating. That's one of the drivers I have also here at Result now. And we went from 16 employees to over 220 employees.
Wow.
We were moving into 3 countries. In the 10 years I was there, we sold structured products to a value of $10 billion. We had a couple $1 billion in assets under management. We had 50,000 customers. So it was a fantastic journey. But I felt also, when I left, I was wondering, what is the next step? We had come to a point, and I felt that it was hard for me to see what the next step was.
Mm.
And then I feel if you come to that point where you a little bit go on, just continue the things that have been done, I think it's time to do something new, because otherwise you lose that sharpness that is required and needed. And I did not want to lose that sharpness. It would be a disfavor to my former colleagues and to the company, which I think is great. They're really good.
Yeah.
And also disfavor to myself. So it's time for me to move on. And the fact is, I did not really, it's important to make a distinction when you go to something. You should not go away from something, but you should go to something.
Yeah.
And what I found interesting with the result was the fact that we worked a lot with tech in Garantum, right? And that was part of our secret to work and build the market share we did and get that growth that we had. But when I looked at what we did, which was cutting edge in banking, in terms, it's still pretty far behind what we're doing here in Result in an epicenter.
Very much different.
Yeah. So here, if you look at the technologies and the applications of it, it's a much broader front. So in Garantum, we were driven by delivering value in terms of financial services. Here we're driven in terms of transformation and in terms of tech changes. So that's very, very different to me. And I could see very few other places than Result and Epicenter that had the same assets that we have here.
Okay.
Yeah, so in terms of access to a good network, creative people around this, fantastic companies in the ecosystem, all these things, and access to knowledge and innovations that kind of spur each other and bring on step by step by step. So those were the things that when I looked at this, I felt, shit, I'm missing out on something here. Yeah, and we actually started speaking about this, Ola, Mahesh, and which are the two of the other partners in Result. We started speaking about in Result, and we spoke for over half a year before I realized that this is what I want to do. And we had other discussions. We were kind of discussing how should Result develop, what could be done, and after half a year, I realized I want to be here. Yeah, and this is when I decided to leave Garantum and move on to this instead.
And how many years did you work in Garantum?
10.
10.
10
Wow.
years.
So
Yeah.
OM was 7.
Yeah. It sounds like, when you say I change jobs, but I actually stay quite long at every one place.
Yeah, because I actually thought OM was like an internship for half a year or a year.
No. I was on the senior management team there, and I was head of a business area there for several years.
Wow. And then when you moved to Garantum, you were a deputy CEO or straight away?
Actually,
CEO?
when I went to Garantum, I started out as a deputy CEO, and I left as the head of the group.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Any other companies you have personally, or is it?
No, I think those are the ones. I started at Accenture. I went to Result. We started the company. We were going to change the world. Jumped over to one of our clients, OM or Nasdaq, and then Garantum, and now I'm back at Result.
Wow. You love it here now?
I do.
Yeah. Result is the place and everything.
It is the place.
But I think it's very good actually to switch the environment sometimes and then come back to where you started and make it even better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it's a lot of help as well, and the team.
I believe in second chances, man.
And the team itself is pretty amazing.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Because everyone is so experienced and the network is insane.
No, but I think, when you choose a place to work, the most important thing is people.
That makes sense.
And I've been very fortunate to have good colleagues all along my career. It's not about loving everyone and agreeing with everyone, but you need to have people that you could bond to and create some type of unity with in order to deliver the changes, because you can't do everything on your own. So if you find a good team, a good group of people, you can be so much more efficient, and you also are much happier in working.
That's the key, right? The team.
That is the key. There are other important things as well, but I think people are key.
Makes sense. What about Elliot? Do you have any future for him set up? I mean, do you know?
You know what? As a parent, you always have dreams, but they should be your dreams and for you to keep. Yeah, and I think he needs to be allowed to choose his own path. Yeah, so I will actually not share those dreams for him.
Yeah,
I think that he needs to have his possibility of building his own future. As does my daughter.
But she's very young now. So.
It's 3.5 years between them.
Yeah, that makes sense. We get to the questions.
Yeah.
There are a lot of questions about finance.
Sure, shoot away.
Yeah, a lot of
it's
people.
It's my old life, but I'll probably remember some things from it.
But would you actually prefer more of working in the environment where there's a team building a company, or you want to build a company yourself? And
I think you can't separate. I don't believe there's one person that will build a company. So I think it's, you can take different ownership.
Yeah.
You can take different, you can engage differently much. But in the end, if you build a company, you don't build it alone.
But do you like this startup stage? No.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of people they don't like it at all.
No, I think
they prefer working with a bigger company.
But there is everything has its charm, right? So if you look at what I've worked at, large corps and small corps and startups and mid corps and so on, every phase has its charm. Every phase has its strength and weaknesses. So I think it's about focusing on the right things when you choose where you want to go. I realize, and I'll actually step a few steps back. When I left Accenture, I thought I knew everything. I worked with very complex things with very large corporations, and we did very exciting projects. So you felt that you knew a lot of things. But what I really learned about in result when I left there was, how does a corporation work? What makes a corporation tick? How do you generate revenues? How do you create cost? How are things interacting? If you're working in large corporations, you get very good at some more narrow points. You get niched to larger quite easily.
Okay.
And before you get that overall view and understanding, you probably need to be very senior, and that sometimes is too late to learn new things, to put it very bluntly. So to me, the fact that I jumped between different maturities of companies and different life stages of the companies meant that I got a better understanding of what makes a business tick. Okay. It's been very helpful to me, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity. Yeah.
But let's say if you come up with an idea tomorrow and you think it's really great, would you actually open up a company, or you have already enough on your plate and don't feel like doing something?
The problem if you come from a mature company is that you sit in a golden cage. So if you're a seasoned and good manager, you will understand the concept of a business case.
Yeah.
Right? So let's assume you're making good money in the company, and you say, okay, what is my business case to start a new business? So you look at, I make this monthly salary, which is really good, and then you realize when you start a business, it'll take 2, 3, 4 years before you make money again.
Yeah.
So most of the times, people which are a little bit older, which have a good position in the company, will not dare to start a new company unless they feel financially secure enough to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, I think that entrepreneurship is fun, and I have provenly so believed that it's worthwhile to change in order to take some risk to build something more over time.
Okay.
I've done that a couple times, and I've never regretted it. Actually, it's not true. I have regretted it when things are sour and you're kind of feeling the pain, the financial pains, like when we're at troubles with the result. But over long run, if you have the guts, you will always land on your feet.
Mm.
And yeah, you may lose something in the middle, but you can make that your strength as you move on to the next challenge. So I think it's worthwhile testing, and therefore I'm not afraid of trying new things and starting new companies.
But time is a lot more important, right? Rather than
what do you mean by
money
time?
at some point, because as you said, it's gonna a new startup would take you 3 to 4 years to when it's gonna start making you money, and if it's gonna start making you money. But for those 3-4 years, you have to put time on it, right? So it might be extra 3-4 hours a day, which means it's 3-4 hours less with your family, or
sure, and that's a choice you need to make. You know, I think when it comes to money, it's a very good motivator for a lot of people, also for me. But it cannot ever be the only motivator.
Mm-hmm.
It makes your soul poor. So you need. We talked previously about the 3 balances of life. So if you focus all your attention on the one which is called work and money, which is kind of correlated, and you lose the 2 other ones, if you have a challenge in that one box, your entire world falls apart. If you have the 2 other boxes working for you, it's just one of the legs. You're never alone, kind of way of thinking. So you need to have different legs to stand on to make that work. And so that, for me, is when you talk about entrepreneurship, the balance is also important. There's so many entrepreneurs who've lost their families and so on. And for them, it was maybe worth the price. For me, it wouldn't be. So when you ask, do you work more and so on? Of course you do, but in the end, you need to kind of make your own decision on what priorities you have, which ones are important to you, right?
Yeah, because if you don't have that balance in the end of the day, and if something goes wrong with it, you're destroyed already.
Yeah, then you have a much tougher way of rebounding, right, or bouncing back.
If you bounce back from that.
Most people do.
Yeah?
Most people do. It sometimes takes longer time, but most people actually get back on their feet.
Just that 1 or 2 years of depression.
Nah.
It's just work, right?
Yeah, it's just work, exactly. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah, I remember Ula was telling me this story, and he was like, yeah, it was .com crash, and my hair got gray in 1 week, and then we had this one colleague, and he just came with a smile on the face, and we're like, why are you smiling? Oh, it's just work, right? And it was you, apparently.
It was me.
Yeah, I did not know that until like very recently.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. Yeah. Okay, so Edgar, what's your opinion on real estate investment for next 5 years?
Oh wow, who has a crystal ball, right? I think this is. I think it's a very difficult question, because if it's one thing I learned in financial services, that no one has the true answer. There are too many factors at play, so it's hard to say what's going to happen. But what I see right now, I think that there are certain. If you don't look at real estate as a property you're going to buy, I see that some companies have made mistakes. You know, and they've over-leveraged themselves. They've reported their finances in the wrong way. And I think that will hurt the real estate segment and the real estate market.
In Sweden, right?
Yeah, not only in Sweden, but primarily in Sweden. And then I see that there are some mature companies. There's one advantage with real estate. It's kind of standing there for a long time. It's kind of secure cash flows. So if you have a sound business to start with, real estate will survive and prevail. But would I invest in one of those cool real estate companies today? No, I wouldn't.
No. All right.
But I think it's long term.
Yeah.
It's a great investment.
For a long term.
Yeah.
And long term considers to be 20 years, 30.
Yeah, you name it.
Yeah.
Whatever is long term for you. More than 5 years at least.
Okay. Interesting. And what do you think about cryptocurrency?
I think it's really cool. I think it was hyped for a while. I think it's getting an unfair treatment right now because I think it has some advantages to it, the way it's structured and what it can do. I think what's sad right now is that there are some fraud situations right now, and people are making, there are companies out there which I would not invest to because I think it's insecure investments.
Okay.
But it's a typical thing when a new technology comes. It's cluttered with a lot of people. It's often some gold diggers coming into the space. I think we see some gold diggers in this space today as well. And then when it starts maturing, people realize the expectations are set too high, and it just crashes. Yeah. And then it rebuilds. So I think if you look at cryptocurrencies, it's something that has the right to prevail and grow and develop. But I think it's been a little bit overhyped, and it's suffering from that today.
Yeah, because I remember Bitcoin last year, it was over $20,000 a coin. Yeah. And then it just dropped to like 3,000 or something.
Yeah.
And it started with $10.
It's the hype curve, man.
It was so bad. Yeah. But what do you think it's a scam? No, like
no. I mean, there are so many things. If I look back to in terms of exchanges in general, so there's certain things which are important when you look at the marketplace, including cryptocurrencies. So that's it needs to be certain liquidity in the marketplace, and there needs to be certain substance at the bottom of these things and so on. And I think that lacked a little bit in the cryptocurrency space. Does it mean it's a bad idea and a bad decision? No, I don't think so. I think it's something good, and I think it will grow and do well over time. But I think the liquidity is too poor. I think it's not transparent enough. So to me, it's a little bit unclear how things are working. I think it's been a space that's unfortunately been taken by a large extent by criminals and so on, using them as a way of avoiding money laundering, tracking by banks and money laundering and so on. So I think that's something that's hurt cryptocurrencies.
But isn't it something that actually holds cryptocurrencies as well at the same time? Because
maybe not. I think it's like with any new technology. What is a cryptocurrency? So we know, for example, that the Swedish central bank is looking at making electronic money only, removing the other physical money. Isn't that a cryptocurrency in a way? Maybe use different technologies at the bottom, but it's e-money still, right? Yeah. So I think it'll come back one way or another. And in that case, it's actually going to make it harder for criminals to work with it. So I think there will come changes to how these things work, which will make it more difficult for criminals to use it as an escape pod. But that's a little bit longer into the future.
Now I have questions about this. It's so interesting. In a way, if the bank's going to have this e-money, but it is related to the bank only.
The banks already today make most of the transactions to e-money.
Yeah, exactly, but it's not really a coin, is it? And cryptocurrency is kind of different, no? Or am I getting it wrong?
No, I think we talked about. To me, money. Remember, we talked about the movie before. Example. So to me, money is the movie, whereas the notes and the cryptocurrencies is a videotape. Yeah, so you will always have means of paying. As long as we have an economy, we'll have means of paying. Yeah. So if it will be exactly the way cryptocurrencies look today, I don't know. Do I believe that the physical money will disappear? I do believe they will disappear. Will it happen in the next 2-3 years? No, definitely not. But in the long run, I think that the physical money will disappear.
Yeah, at least that's where they're going right now.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Big Brother wants to see you. Big Brother sees you much better if they have control of the currencies, right?
For sure, especially in the countries where they only use cash. There is no control of money at all. They don't know how much they have, so that's where the corruption starts and everything. So in third world countries, that's the main issue. And when I came to Sweden, I had problems actually paying with the cards because I'm so used to having cash and having knowing the amount of money, how much I have. Because with the card, you can just go and pay and not really realize that you're paying too much or too less.
Absolutely.
Especially when you go out those days. Another friend of mine, with around $4 million, what would be the best way to invest?
Oh, how long is a string?
He probably wants to make short.
Yeah, no, but the question is, how do you invest? There's so many things you need to take into considerations. So I would rather than say invest in stock A or stock B, I would advise to look at some other look at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
So one is, when do you need your money?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is your risk so if you need them soon, I would say take low risk investments. If you need them further into time, I would think it's okay to take a little bit of higher risk.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I would look at is, you know, in terms of risk, how much are you willing to lose? People usually are really hungry to get upside.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ask a person, so how much would you think is a fair return? And most people say, well, you know, I would be happy if I had 10, 12, 13%. And if you want to have that type of return, are you prepared to lose 50% of your capital? And most people say no. Yeah, so I think it's about understanding what risk do you need to carry in order to make high returns. And if you're not prepared to take that risk, you should not expect the high return. And then you also come into things which are related to your life. You know, how much money do you need? You know, will it hurt you if you lose money? Now, what is your ability to carry the loss? I think is also super important. With those very generic comments, right now I believe the markets are quite shaky. Mm-hmm. So I have decided to put a lot of my assets in safe investments. Mm-hmm. So short interest rates, not long interest rates. And then I have a little bit in the markets playing in order to not lose out if it actually keeps on ticking upwards. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I invest in things that we're doing right now here in Result and Epicenter. Yeah. That's also investment for me because I believe there's a small portion. You don't want to miss the next Spotify or the next iSettle. Mm. But if you move in when they're already there, you've missed it. But you need to be prepared to lose 100% of that money. So a little part of my money I put into that type of investments as well. So a diversified portfolio, not focused on one thing. I've met people who go all in into one thing. Mm-hmm. You know, I admire them for their courage, but I would never do that because it's, to me, too much risk.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of risk if you put it
Absolutely.
in one risk.
Yeah, but people do that. A lot of entrepreneurs do that. Yeah. And if you're young, it's okay. If you're old, you need to find a way to make sure that it's not going to impact you too much in your life. But it's okay in some instances as well.
But you prefer like long-term investments, right? Rather than...
Yeah, it's partially because I'm not that interested in following, and that maybe sounds odd coming from someone who's been a CEO for a financial institution, but I'm actually not that interested in looking at daily fluctuations. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit more focused on what do I believe is going to happen long term, mm-hmm. and less in the company and more in terms of macroeconomics. That's what I think is more interesting. I'm not into stock picking.
Well, you have guys for that, right?
No, but I think sector analysis is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then having a good portfolio of that.
Have you worked with that yourself? No.
No.
Let's see. Well, where do you get your motivation?
Work, family, friends. Yeah, it's 3 boxes.
Yeah, 3 boxes indeed. And did you actually have a mentor when you were growing up yourself? Or?
No, I did not.
Also, you did it all by yourself?
Yeah, I don't know if I did it by myself. But I find people, not mentors, but I find people I could share experiences with and talk to. Mm. It doesn't mean they're my mentor.
But it's always something to learn from.
Yeah, but you know, it's good to share things. Mm. I'm not that super open where I will, you know, spill my guts and all my problems to people. Mm. But I don't mind, and I do appreciate. Sometimes that person could be my boss. Sometimes it's my friend, and you find the right person for the right topic.
Yeah, 3 boxes again. Huh?
Yeah, there you go.
Right. What are the biggest struggles you faced as being a CEO?
You know, it's as a CEO. You're sometimes forced to make uncomfortable decisions. Mm. You know, it's for the greater good, and when you do those decisions, I think it's always important to have respect for people, independent of which decisions you make. Mm. So I've made some decisions which I think have been hard. I know that it's not been in line with what some of my partners, clients, employees, and so on would have wanted. But without exception, I've tried to do that with respect.
Mm. Yeah, because it could be firing, right?
It could be firing, it could be breaking off partnerships, it could be, kicking someone out from as a customer and so on. So whenever you do that, you need to have respect for the individuals which are involved in this.
Mm. And what are the qualities you seek when hiring people or getting people to your team?
Because I think that depends on the job you're hiring for.
Mm.
I think saying that this is the type of person I believe is good is kind of losing out on all the benefits you could find in other individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you hire someone to be in the reception, it will be very different things I'm looking for than if I'm hiring someone to be an analyst or a stock analyst or a macro analyst. And I can't say, even though of course the analyst will have a better pay, the receptionist is super important in a company because it's your face, it's your to the customers. Mm. That's the first thing they see when they come in through the door. So I would have said, no, this is what I'm looking for when I'm looking at a person. Which one do I pick? Do I pick the receptionist or do I pick the analyst?
Probably receptionist.
Yeah, no, not at all. It depends on what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the qualifications will be very different. So do I need really strong analytical capabilities in the receptionist? No, definitely not.
But you do need a perfect person for it as well.
But I need a perfect person for that as well. I need my guests when they come in through the door to feel welcome and wanted, and that is so important. But would I put a receptionist on making analysis of macroeconomics? No, I would not. Because they have different qualifications.
Makes sense.
So your question, what I'm looking for in a person, is not answerable. There's certain things I know I would want in every person I look for, and that's good values.